Everybody. I'm glad to have you here today. I thought we could do something a little different and I could read some chapters out of a Magic Treehouse series book that I have picked for you. It's a really good series. There are so many different novels in that series, each one with its own imaginary story. And I think that they are a good series to check out. So if this book interests you guys, definitely come in and look and see what we have to offer. So the book I picked is number 33 in the series, and it is Summer of the Sea Serpent. Dear reader, Summer of the Sea Serpent is the third in a special group of Magic Treehouse books called the Merlin Missions. In these books, it is Merlin, the magician, who sends Jack and Annie on their treehouse adventures, often to mythical and legendary lands. In the first Merlin mission, Christmas in Camelot, Jack and Annie journeyed into a world of magic and fantasy to find a secret cauldron that held the water of the memory and imagination. In the second Merlin's mission, Haunted Castle on Hallows Eve, they traveled to a mysterious castle. With their friends Teddy, they saved the future of Camelot by finding the stolen diamond of destiny. Now, 8 months later, on the first day of summer, Jack and Annie are about to go on a lonely seacoast in a fantasy land. They invite you to join them on their adventure, but beware, before night falls, incredibly strange things will happen. Chapter 1 Summer Solstice. Jack was sitting on the porch reading the newspaper. It was a warm summer day, but the porch was shady and cool. Annie poked her head out of the screen door. Hey, Mom, says, Hey, Mom says she'll drive us to the lake this afternoon, she said. Jack didn't raise his eyes from the weather page. Did you know today is the summer solstice? He said. What's that? Asked Annie. It's the official first day of summer, said Jack. There's more daylight today than on any other day of the year. Cool, said Annie. Starting tomorrow, the days will get shorter and shorter, said Jack. A loud screech came overhead. Caw! Look, said Annie, a seagull. Jack looked up. A large white gull was clinging to the bright noon sky. What's he doing here? Asked Jack. The ocean's 2 hours away. The gull swooped down and screeched again. Maybe he's a messenger from Morgan or Merlin, said Annie. Maybe one of them sent him to tell us the treehouse is finally back. Jack's heart began to pound. He put down the newspaper. You think so? He asked. Jack and Annie hadn't seen the magic treehouse since their Merlin mission to a haunted castle last Halloween. Jack had begun to worry that the treehouse might never come back. Look, he's flying towards the woods, said Annie. Jack jumped up. Okay, he said, let's go. We'll be back soon, Mom, Annie called. Then she and Jack dashed across their yard. They ran down their street and into the Frog Creek woods. The shady woods were dappled with sunlight. The air smelled fresh and clean. Jack and Annie hurried past the leafy trees until they came to the tallest oak. High in the oak branches, the magic tree house was waiting for them. Wow, Jack and Annie said together. The tree house looked exactly the same as they had last seen it. Annie grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Jack followed. When they climbed inside the tree house, no one was there. Look, our royal invitation is still here, said Annie. She picked up the card that had taken them to Camelot on Christmas Eve. And our leaf from Merlin is still here, said Jack. He picked up the yellow autumn leaf that had sent them on their Halloween mission. This is new, said Annie. She picked up a pale blue seashell. The shell was shaped like a small fan. There was writing on it. Hey, this looks like Merlin's handwriting, said Annie. We must be going on another mission for Merlin. She read aloud the message from the magician. To Jack and Annie of Frog Creek, on this summer solstice, journey to a land lost in mist, to a time even before Camelot. Follow my rhyme to complete your mission. M. That was the seashell. Annie looked up. What rhyme? She said. Let me see. Jack took a look at the shell and took it from her, turned it over, and on the other side was a poem. So Jack read the poem aloud. Before night falls on this long summer day, a shining sword must find its way into your hands and out of the gloom, or Camelot's king shall meet his doom. To begin your quest for this sword of light, call for the help of the water knight. Then pass through the cave of the Spider Queen. Spider Queen? Annie interrupted. She frowned. Spiders were about the only thing she was afraid of. I don't like spiders either. Don't think about it now, said Jack. Let's keep going. So he read on. Pass through the cave of the Spider Queen and swim with a silky clothed in green. Enter the cove of the stormy coast. Dive neath the cloak of the old gray ghost. Jack stopped reading. An old gray ghost, he said. Don't think about it now, said Annie. Keep going. So Jack read more. Answer a question with love, not fear. With rhyme and sword, your home is near. Both Jack and Annie were silent for a moment. That's a lot to do before nightfall, Jack finally said. Yes, said Annie, and I'm a little worried about the spider part. And the ghost part, said Jack. Hey, said Annie, if we're going on another Merlin mission, I'll bet Teddy will come with us. He can help us get through the scary parts. Right, said Jack. Just hearing Teddy's name made me feel braver. So, said Annie, onward? Onward was Teddy's favorite word. Onward it is, said Jack, and he pointed to the handwriting on the pale blue shell. I wish we could go to the time before Camelot. The wind started to blow. The tree house started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and then eventually everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. The Water Knight. A salty breeze blew into the tree house. Seagulls screeched overhead. Jack and Annie looked out the tree house window. They were high in the branches of a gnarled old tree. The tree was on a sea cliff beneath snow-capped mountains. The mountains overlooked a rocky coast. There was no sign of human life anywhere. It looked wild and lonely, said Annie. Really lonely, said Jack. I wonder where Merlin and Teddy are. I don't know, said Annie. They were in the trunk of our tree house last time. Let's look for them in this one. She climbed down the rope ladder. Jack crammed the seashell in his pocket and followed her. Merlin? Annie called. Teddy? Jack and Annie circled the gnarled tree trunk, but there was no sign of an entrance into the magical chamber of Merlin the magician. They circled the tree again. Jack taped the bark in several places. Then he tapped and he tapped and he kept looking. I have a feeling no one lives inside this tree, said Annie. I think you're right, said Jack. Maybe they're down by the water, said Annie. Annie and Jack walked a few feet to the edge of the sea cliff and looked down at the rugged coast. They saw 3 coves separated from each other by rocky cliffs. The cliffs were filled with shadowy crags and the dark mouths of caves. In the first cove, sunlit water flowed from the open sea through a small space between the cliffs, then washed onto a pebble shore. The second cove was smaller, but looked much like the first. And the third cove was very different. The furthest away, it was surrounded by a ring of bright green hills. A thin white mist hung over its milky green waters. I don't see any sign of Merlin or Teddy, said Jack. I guess we'll have to get started without them. Read the beginning of Merlin's rhyme again, said Annie. So Jack took the shell from his pocket and read aloud. Before night falls on this long summer day, a shining sword must find its way into your hands and out of the gloom, or Camelot's king shall meet his doom. Jack looked up at the sky. The sun was almost directly overhead. It must be around noon now, he said. We don't have much time, said Annie. What should we do first? Well, Jack looked back at the rhyme and read aloud. To begin your quest for the Sword of Light, call for the help of the Water Knight. Oh, easy, said Annie. It is, said Jack. Sure, said Annie. If he's a water knight, he's probably down by the water, right? So she started down the steep, rocky hill that led to the nearest cove. Jack stuffed the shell back in his pocket. But who is the water knight? He yelled as he followed Annie. It doesn't matter, she yelled back. We just have to go down to the water and call for his help. They climbed over large boulders towards the cove. The boulders were slippery, but Jack's sneakers kept him from sliding. A damp breeze blew from the sea. It made his skin and clothes feel kind of clammy. When they got to the shore, Jack wiped the mist off of his glasses and looked around. The wide beach was covered with silvery pebbles, shells, and rows of sea foam. Sandpipers and gulls picked the tangled ribbons of soggy seaweed. The tide must be out, said Jack. He studied the cliffs above the cove. I don't know how a knight can get down here. A horse would never make it over all of these rocks. Let's just do what the rhyme tells us, Annie, and see what happens. So Annie stretched out her arms. She closed her eyes and she raised her head towards the sky and shouted, Oh, water knight, whoever you are, come here and help Jack and Annie. Oh, brother, Jack muttered to himself. Suddenly, they heard the wild cries of the seagulls. Look, said Annie. She pointed towards the middle of the cove. Seabirds were screeching and flapping above a giant swirl of spray and foam. The swirl was spinning just above the surface of the water, and it headed towards the beach. Wow, said Annie. She took off running across the sand. Come back, shouted Jack. No, come look, said Annie. So Jack hurried to the edge of the surf. Through the blur of spinning spray and foam, he saw the silver helmet of a knight appear above the water. He saw silver breast armor. Then a strange creature burst through the surface, carrying the knight on its back. The creature had a horse's head and neck and front legs, but instead of back legs, it had a long, silvery fish's tail. With the water knight on its back, the horse creature half galloped and half swam through the cove. Seagulls shrieked wildly overhead, following the pair towards the shore. As the knight drew close to the edge of the water, he looked straight at Jack and Annie. He raised his gloved hand and beckoned to them. Okay, we're coming, cried Annie. She started pulling off her sneakers. Wait, let's think about this, cried Jack. We don't have time, said Annie. He wants to help us. He's like the stag that came for us in Camelot. No, he isn't, said Jack. He's much weirder. But Annie tossed her sneakers onto the rocks and splashed through the shallow water. The knight held out his hand and helped her onto the strange horse creature. The creature slapped its fish tail against the water, sending up a fountain of spray. Come on, Jack, Annie yelled. We can't waste time. Here's a picture of what it looks like and the creature that they met and summoned. He does look pretty neat, though. We talked about that last week. The mythical beasts that were half beast and half animal. So I wonder which one that falls under. Annie's right, Jack thought. They had to find the Sword of Light before nightfall. He pulled off his sneakers and tossed them up onto the rocks near Annie. Then he stepped into the cold water and waded out to the night. Annie helped pull Jack up onto the horse creature. He sat on its scaly tail and clung to Annie while she held on tightly to the water knight's tunic. The silvery fish's tail slapped the water. A shower of spray rained down on Jack, and he closed his eyes. Onward, he said faintly. The water knight turned away from the shore. With more slaps of its tail, the horse creature began galloping and swimming across the cove. The seagulls shrieked widely as they swooped after them. Bumping up and down, Jack clung desperately to Annie. He kept his eyes squeezed shut, and he tried really hard not to fall off. As they sped across the cove, the water knight guided his steed steadily over each ripple and wave. The bumpy ride soon turned into a smooth one. "This is great!" cried Annie. Jack finally opened his eyes. With the wind and spray whipping his face and hair, he began to feel more excited than scared. "I'll bet he's taking us to the Sword of Light," cried Annie. "We'll be done with our mission in no time." That would be too easy, thought Jack. But as they sped over the waters, he grew more hopeful. Maybe she's right. Maybe it will be easy, he thought. Not all of our missions have to be hard. But what about the rest of the stuff in the rhyme? What about, before Jack could finish his thought, the strange horse creature stopped and reared up. Jack and Annie tumbled over its fish tail and splashed into the cold water. They sank for a moment and then bobbed up to the surface, frantically treading water. They looked up at the water knight and his horse. The knight lifted his arm into the air. He pointed to a pile of boulders near the base of a nearby cliff. Then he spread the fingers of his gloved hand in a gesture of farewell. "Bye! Thanks!" shouted Annie. The horse creature slapped his fishtail and took off in a fountain of spray and foam. With the gulls circling above them, the mysterious pair whirled towards the passage between the cliffs that led out to the sea. In a moment, they vanished into the open water beyond. Chapter 3, Cave of the Spider Queen. That we'll have to save for next week. It does seem like our story is getting very interesting, so I think I will continue reading it. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Maybe you could send me some comments and tell me what you think is going to happen next. For our activity, I have a really cool marbled cup that you can do yourself. So in the bags that I have for you guys, there will be a white cup, your own bottle of nail polish, and the instructions on how to do it, and a few little goodies in there, like snacks and a couple puzzles and things like that. So as far as the activity goes, it's pretty simple itself, and it's really cool. If you guys want to try it on other things, I really recommend it. It can be really fun, and you'll be surprised how many things you'll want to marble. But what you do is you get really warm water and you put it in a container. Make sure it's a container that you don't mind if it gets nail polish on it, because it will get some residue and you'll either have to keep it for other projects or pitch the container. So again, you fill the container up with warm water. You drizzle in the nail polish, however you want, whatever design. If you don't like the way that it fell into the water, you can take a toothpick or a dowel rod or something like that, a skewer, and kind of swirl it around and make it the way you want. And then you carefully dip it in and you pull it right out. If you like the way it looks, which I liked mine, I didn't have to do anything with it, then you sit it to dry for about 2 hours and then it's good to go. You guys just, I would recommend hand washing it. I haven't tried it in the dishwasher yet, but again, more delicate things you usually want to keep out of the dishwasher. If you don't like the way the design was, make sure you get to it immediately with the nail polish remover, and you can kind of clean up the edges, or if you don't like the whole thing, you can erase it and try again. Please send me some pictures of the cups that you guys do or other things that you decide to marble, and let me know what you think. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.